and entrepreneur straight out of New York City, Michael Chernow. What's cracking?
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Creatures of Habit Podcast. This is another solo cast. I don't even know what episode we're in, but we're just flowing and rolling with this thing. I just want to thank you guys so much for the feedback. I'm getting so much awesome feedback about the podcast. It would mean the world to me if you went over to Apple Podcast and gave us a 5-star rating and review. But regardless, I'm going to keep recording these podcasts, these solo casts, and with a bunch of great guests. You know, the Creatures of Habit podcast is something I absolutely love to do. And you guys support it, so I really, really appreciate you all listening. Today, what am I going to discuss today? Today I want to talk about how to best be most efficient with your morning routine. You guys know how crazy I am about the importance of a morning routine. I would argue to say the number one most important piece of the puzzle for morning routine success. And I also want to talk about the weekends. I want to talk about the weekends, what it means to be comfortable giving yourself a break on the weekends in regards to morning routine, habit, training, everything. Both of these things have sort of newly become areas that I've been spending time thinking about. But let's start with the most important component to fulfilling an efficient, successful morning routine. I wonder what you think I'm going to say. But the morning routine, the success of morning routine is all contingent on the night before. That is ultimately how you truly set yourself up for success going to bed early. Let's talk about that for a little while. I've been asked a million times, how do you stay consistent and disciplined with waking up early in the morning? And my answer for a while was, there's no pill you can take. There's no flip you can switch. It is truly all discipline and how much you want it. At the end of the day, that is the answer to sort of any habit. And also, one other thing that I want to touch on in this podcast is instant gratification versus long-term gratification and the difference between the two. Because all the stuff that I talk about is not really instant gratification. But anyway, we'll get there. So when I started thinking about that question a little bit more, what is the most important component to an early morning routine of self-care and self-love? It truly is going to bed earlier at night. So let's unpack it. I go to bed at 9:30 every night. I am in my bed at 9:30 every night. Some nights I'm asleep at 9:30 because I literally get into bed. I'm exhausted from the day. I put on my eye mask, I put on my one AirPod, and I listen to an audiobook or a podcast, and I am asleep in like a minute. And some other nights, you know, we've been out, we've been super active all day. It takes me maybe 10 minutes to wind down with my wife. We chat for a little bit, and I'm typically asleep by 9:40, 9:45 latest. I wake up at somewhere between 4:45 and 5 a.m. I actually have an 8-sleep mattress cover that starts to warm up around 4:55. So if I'm not already up, the mattress will actually heat up and wake me up, but it rarely has to get there. Nothing great for me happens after 9:30 at night. Nothing incredibly productive happens for me in the lifestyle that I live now. When I worked in the restaurant business, lots of stuff happened that was super important for me to be awake for post 9:30 at night. But now that I live way more of a normal lifestyle in regards to my circadian rhythm, nothing really productive happens after 9:30 at night. So I think more people have a hard time going to bed than they do waking up early. Because if you really think about it, if you went to bed earlier, getting up earlier is going to happen. If you go to bed at 12 or 1 or 2 and you're up scrolling or on your email or watching Netflix or maybe even reading, it just totally interferes with the success of the following day. If you don't get somewhere between 7 and 8 hours of sleep a night, you're not going to be running optimally. My sweet spot is 7 hours a night. That is a sweet spot for me. If I hit 7 hours, which I typically do, I am golden. As I get closer to 8, the truth is that if I breach 8 hours of sleep, I am a little tired the next day, actually. So I like between 7 and 8 hours of sleep. The moral of this conversation for you all listening is, if you want to figure out a way to be better at waking up early so you can fit in all this awesome stuff that I've talked about so much on this podcast, that guests that I've had on have also, the majority of them, talked about all the things they do between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. in the morning. Successful people tend to spend a fair amount of time on themselves in the early morning hours. And arguably, that's the most important time in your life, because self-investment, as we all know, is the best investment. That doesn't mean that if you wake up later, you cannot be successful at all. However, to be happy and successful, from my experience, getting up in the early morning really does help. And from my experience interviewing lots of super successful people, both financially, spiritually, physically, a lot of them also happen to subscribe to the early morning hours of self-investment. So I would just say, if you're questioning, how can I start this? What would be a great way for me to start waking up at 5:30, 6 a.m. If you're waking up now at 8, 9, 7:30, go to bed earlier. It's truly that simple. Try your best to set a time, draw a boundary. Right? This is also like a very important boundary drawing conversation. The more responsible we get, the more responsibilities we have. And if you cannot create boundaries for yourself as a successful person, evolving and growing and learning, it's going to be very, very hard to structure your life. And so my boundary is 9:30. It's 9:30. And that's what time I go to bed. Pretty much 7 days a week. Now, I want to talk about one more topic. The weekends. The weekends. I would be lying if I told you that I did not wake up super early on the weekends as well. However, I do believe that it is absolutely fine, awesome, warranted to sleep in on the weekend. If you feel like you've had a really tough week, you beat your body up, you train hard, maybe you went out Saturday night, which I totally encourage, break that 9:30 p.m. bedtime if it's an opportunity to hang out with your significant other, be at a social event, whatever. By all means, do that. I'm just talking, the 9:30 p.m. thing is like on a normal night where you're at home and, staying up late is not generating any value. But if you, let's just say you're at a social event on a Saturday night, you get home at 11 o'clock, you've had an awesome time. Sleep until 7 o'clock, by all means. And don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up. I had to learn to take days off. I was one of these no days off kind of guys for a long time. And there are times where I don't take days off. But I have become far more interested in listening to my body. And so this past weekend was what inspired me to want to do this podcast. I decided that both on Saturday and Sunday morning, I was going to stay in bed until 6:30. And that's the time that my family wakes up. They all wake up around 6:30. And it was awesome. It was awesome. It made me feel like it was another win for me. During the week, I do my normal routine, and waking up at 6:30 quite frankly, does not give me an opportunity to do all the things that I typically do every morning in my typical morning routine, because I'm the only one awake from 5 a.m. till 6:30. So I've got an hour and a half to really just invest in myself. If I wake up at 6:30, I'm all family. I'm not like going to red light therapy, meditate, stretch, sauna, cold plunge, read. I'm not doing that stuff when my kids are up on a weekend morning. I'm not. That's selfish and rude. I'm not that person. But that's why I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning most days. So I want this podcast to instill a little bit of leniency for yourself. Perfection is absolutely the wrong direction for anything. It's about growth and progress. And you know what? Also, you can change your mind. You can change your mind whenever you want. We all have a hard time getting comfortable with changing our minds about a specific thing. And you can change your mind. So if on a Saturday morning, you're a hard charger, all week long, you're up early, you're crushing it, you're doing all the things that we talk about on this podcast, and on a Saturday morning you say, you know what, I'm going to sleep in today. By all means, go for it. Enjoy it and love it. Just like you're going to have a burger for lunch on Saturday afternoon. Go for it, enjoy it, love it, every minute of it. Eat every single French fry. Put cheese on that burger. Put cheese on that burger and have ice cream for dessert. Do it. Why? Because you deserve it. Because you probably, if you're a listener to this podcast, chances are the vast majority of the people that listen here are either already crushing in their, in their nutrition and their fitness and their mindset stuff, or they're on the path towards getting there or really inspired to do it. So what I'm here to tell you is the lifestyle that I live, this healthy sort of wellness focused path, does not mean I don't get to enjoy the indulgences in life. It just means that 80 to 85% of the time, I'm right on the beam. I know what my meals are. I know what time I'm eating them. It's brainless for me. I don't even think about it. I never stress about food ever, because I know exactly what it's going to be. And then when I want to go, I go hard. Last thing I want to talk about. So far we've covered, the best way to be successful in a morning routine is to go to bed earlier. Go to bed, my time is 9:30. That's the time that works really, really well for me. I get everything I need to get done, including at least one Netflix episode by 9:30. And then the next thing we talked about was on the weekends, give yourself a break. It's okay. I give myself a break whenever I really want to, but most of the time the truth is that I love waking up early. Like I love on a Saturday morning, if I went to bed early on Friday night, Saturday morning waking up before everybody and just totally pouring as much love into myself as I can before my family gets up, and then I got a full day to hang out with my wife and kids. And I've been set up for massive enjoyment because I've just spent the first hour and a half of my morning crushing it. But I also like giving myself a break too. And then the last thing I want to talk about is instant gratification versus long-term gratification. I'm sure you guys you've heard about this in other podcasts. Most of the things that make you feel good right away are not nearly as valuable as the things that take time to build greatness. And so every single thing I do in the morning, let's just say prayer. I pray every day. I've been praying for many, many years. I pray to the universe. I ask for guidance. I ask for acceptance. I ask for the universe to help remove my character defects, my wrong thinking, my rationalizing. I pray for a whole bunch of people that their days are awesome, and I have a little gratitude practice in my prayer every morning. And I don't get up from that prayer and feel like I've just won the race. I don't feel anything physically, but I've been doing it for 18 plus years. And now what I could tell you is that I have a real genuine relationship with the universe. I've had so many conversations with the universal energy that I feel connected truly to that. That didn't happen overnight. That doesn't happen every single morning, but that happened to me over time. Meditation, I've been meditating for a long time. After I meditate, when I finally open my eyes, there is a little sense of like, oh, this is awesome. But it's not like a white light experience. I'm not like, enlightened after I meditate every day. But slowly, I've become way more aware of my ability to refocus, bring it back to center. Red light therapy, I just kind of recently started doing it. The truth is that like it's supposed to help my body on a cellular level. It's supposed to really help regenerate cells and penetrate on a cellular level. And healthy cells is ultimately healthy life, right? Like longevity, healthy life. And so I don't feel it immediately. I don't. Same thing with my infrared sauna. Infrared sauna is supposed to penetrate on a cellular level. I don't feel it immediately. I feel the heat. When the red light's on me, I feel the light, but I'm not like walking away like a different person. All these little things take time and patience. And so anything that makes you feel good right away, like eating a pint of ice cream, it feels really good. There's dopamine flooding your system, the high from the sugar, drinking alcohol, you get tipsy, you get drunk, it's fun, using drugs, that stuff really is not necessarily the most valuable use of your time. The one thing that I can say that does sort of blend the boundaries there is fitness. Fitness is definitely, and that's why I think I've been drawn to it so much. When I got sober 18 and a half years ago, these two guys, you guys have probably heard my story. Actually, I don't even know if I've given my full story on this podcast. I got to do that one of these days. But these two guys really helped, they took me under their wing when I was transitioning from an addict to a human of sobriety. And they introduced me to fitness, and they did that very strategically. Like that was like the first thing that they introduced to me when I decided to get sober. Because they, I believe, knew that fitness offers a very similar rush of endorphins to using drugs and drinking. If you exert yourself physically in an intense way on a regular basis, the feeling that you get once you're done is awesome. So I would say that is one of the few things that I have experience with that does really affect you physically, mentally, spiritually on a relatively instant basis. However, it's not like you instantly get a six-pack or instantly are able to bench press 225 pounds or instantly able to run a marathon. It takes patience, practice, attention. I've rambled a little bit here, but I'm okay with that too. I really appreciate you guys listening to this podcast. Patience in all the stuff that I talk about is paramount. Nothing happens overnight. Nothing good happens overnight. Nothing great happens overnight. It just takes time. And, I'm 42. I've got a long road ahead of me, and I'm so grateful for that. Because really, at the end of the day, the journey, the day-to-day focus, presence is all that matters. I know that it takes time to get to where I want to go, so I'm not really focused on the where I want to go part. I'm way more focused on what can I do today? What can I do today to learn, to grow, to excel, to develop, to evolve, to be of service, to connect? All right, I'm going to stop rambling now. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. It would mean the world if you shared this with a friend, a family member, anyone that you think could potentially benefit from this podcast. And also, again, please give us a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to your podcast. And lastly, if you have not tried Meal 1, I promise you, it is an incredible tool to add to your arsenal. It is a superfood meal that is incredibly convenient. It's made with gluten and glyphosate-free oats, 30 grams of plant-based protein powder, chia seeds, flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, little pink Himalayan salt, vitamin D3, omega-3 fatty acids, an awesome probiotic digestive enzymes. It is best made overnight. Pour it into a jar or a Creature container if you have one of those. Add a little bit of almond milk. I like to add 3/4 of a cup of almond milk. I mix it really well. I cover it. I throw it in the fridge. I do this every night after I do the dishes. After I do the dinner dishes, I just go right into making my Meal 1 for the next day. And it's just a no-brainer. It's literally, it is the best thing to put into your body as a first meal of your day every day. And it's less than a Starbucks Frappuccino. So think about that. Full meal, satiating, incredibly healthy. 30 grams of protein in the morning, less than a Starbucks Frappuccino. I love you guys. I appreciate you. Until the next one, peace.